I never imagined that such hidden towns actually exist in the US, tucked away between mountains where the air feels thinner and life moves slower. Driving through winding roads and climbing steep peaks, I felt a mix of awe and disbelief. Each town I visited had its own story, its own rhythm, and people who truly call these remote places home. You won't just see these towns, you'll feel them, as if you're standing right there among the peaks. If you love exploring hidden places and unbelievable towns, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join me on this adventure. 1 Whittier, Alaska. I still remember the moment I entered Whittier. It did not feel like entering a normal town. The road ended at a dark, narrow tunnel cut through the mountain. Cars waited quietly, and when the green light came on, we all moved together into the mountain like we were being swallowed. The tunnel was long and cold, and for a few minutes there was nothing except concrete walls and silence. When I came out on the other side, Whittier suddenly appeared, surrounded by steep mountains and heavy clouds. The first thing that shocked me was how quiet it was. No traffic noise, no busy streets. Just wind, distant water, and the sound of gulls. I stood there feeling small, almost watched by the mountains. Most people here live inside one building called Beach Towers. When I walked toward it, I felt like I was approaching a city hidden inside a single block of concrete. Inside, I saw doors that led to homes, a post office, a small store, and even a school. It felt strange knowing that so many daily lives were happening behind one roof. Outside, the weather changed fast. One moment the sky was clear, and the next, rain started falling softly. I could see glaciers resting on the mountains, silent and massive, reminding me how powerful nature is here. The air was cold and clean, and every breath felt sharp. I thought about how isolated this place is, especially in winter, when snow and darkness last for months. As I walked near the harbor, I saw fishing boats moving slowly in the water. Life here is not easy, but it is real and honest. People waved as they passed, not rushed, not distracted. Standing there, I felt a mix of peace and unease. Peace because everything felt simple, and unease because this town depends completely on one road, one tunnel, one way in and out. When I left Whittier, going back through the same tunnel, I realized something. This town is not unbelievable because it is strange. It is unbelievable because people truly live here, every day, surrounded by mountains, weather, and silence. And I had seen it with my own eyes. 2 Eerie, Colorado. The first thing I noticed when I reached Eerie was how the road slowly tightened, like the mountains were closing in on me. Tall rock walls rose on both sides, and the town appeared suddenly at the end of the valley. It felt hidden, almost protected. I stopped the car for a moment, just to sit there and breathe. The air was cool and thin, and it carried a quiet I was not used to. Walking through the town felt different from any place I had been before. Every street seemed to end with a mountain. No matter where I turned, massive peaks stood right in front of me, sharp and unmoving. It made me feel small, but not uncomfortable. More like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I could hear water flowing somewhere nearby, and when I followed the sound, I found a waterfall dropping straight down the rocks, as if it had always been there, watching over the town. The weather changed quickly. Sunlight touched the rooftops 1 minute, and cold shadows filled the streets the next. Locals moved calmly, like they were used to nature changing its mood without warning. I passed small cafes and old buildings, and everything felt real and lived in, not designed for tourists. When I spoke to a shop owner, he smiled and told me winters here can be long and heavy, but people stay because this place becomes part of you. Later, I sat near the hot springs, steam rising into the cold air. My hands were cold, but my face felt warm from the sun bouncing off the cliffs. I thought about how this town sits in a box canyon, with no easy way out, surrounded by mountains that feel alive. It was beautiful, but also serious, like nature reminding you who is in control. When evening came, the light faded fast behind the peaks. Shadows stretched across the streets, and the town grew quiet again. As I walked back, I felt a strange mix of comfort and respect. Eerie is not just a mountain town you visit. It is a place you feel, and once you leave, it stays with you. 3 Telluride, Colorado. I reached Telluride by accident more than by plan. The road kept climbing, and with every turn the mountains felt closer, heavier, like they were slowly boxing me in. When I finally entered the town, it felt like I had driven into the end of the world. There was no road going forward, only mountains standing tall, silent, and unmoved. I parked the car and stepped out, and the first thing that hit me was the air. It was cold, thin, and incredibly clean. Breathing felt different here, like my lungs had to work harder, and that made every moment feel more real. The town was quiet, not empty, just calm. Old buildings lined the streets, and above them rose peaks that looked too big to belong to real life. As I walked deeper into Telluride, I realized how trapped yet safe this place feels. The town sits inside a box canyon, with mountains on 3 sides. There is no easy escape. That thought stayed in my head as I walked, and it made every sound louder. Footsteps, distant voices, even the wind felt important. I looked up and saw waterfalls falling straight down the cliffs, thin white lines against dark rock. Later, I took the free gondola that moves silently above the town. From up there, Telluride looked small, almost fragile. Snow still rested on the high peaks even though it was not winter. I felt a strange mix of fear and peace, knowing people choose to live here, surrounded by nature that can turn harsh without warning. As evening came, the sunlight slowly disappeared behind the mountains. Shadows filled the streets fast, and the temperature dropped. People moved indoors, and the town became quiet again. Standing there, I understood why Telluride feels unreal to so many people. It is not because it is hidden, or rich, or beautiful. It is because it exists in a place where nature clearly comes first. When I left, I knew I was carrying that feeling with me, long after the mountains were out of sight. For Jerome, Arizona. I first saw Jerome while driving up a narrow, winding road that clung to the side of a mountain. Every turn felt tighter than the last, and when I looked down, the drop was enough to make my hands grip the steering wheel harder. The town appeared suddenly, stacked on the cliff like it was holding on for its life. It did not look planned. It looked like it had grown there because it had no other choice. When I stepped out of the car, the ground felt uneven under my feet. The streets were steep, and walking felt like climbing. Old buildings leaned slightly, as if tired from standing there for so long. I could feel history in the air, heavy and quiet. This place was once a busy mining town, and now it felt like it was living on memories. As I walked deeper into Jerome, the silence started to feel loud. Wind moved through broken spaces between buildings, making soft sounds that followed me. I stopped at an overlook and saw the valley far below. It was beautiful, but it also made me feel exposed, like the town was watching everything from above. I thought about how close Jerome once came to disappearing completely, and how easily it could have slipped off this mountain and been forgotten. I passed old hotels and small shops, some restored, some barely holding together. Locals moved slowly, like they respected the weight of the place. One man told me people used to call Jerome a ghost town, and I believed him. Even now, it feels half awake, caught between what it was and what it is trying to be. As the sun started to go down, shadows stretched across the streets. The temperature dropped fast, and the town felt even more isolated. Standing there, I felt a strange mix of admiration and sadness. Jerome is real, and people live here, but it feels like a place that refuses to let its past die. When I finally left, driving back down the mountain, I kept looking in the mirror. Jerome slowly disappeared behind the curves, but the feeling stayed. It is not a town you simply visit. It stays in your thoughts, long after the road takes you away. 5. North Pole, Alaska. I still remember the first time I drove into North Pole, Alaska. The road stretched endlessly, lined with snow-covered trees, and the mountains on either side seemed to bend toward each other. The cold hit me immediately, sharper than anything I had felt before. My breath came out in misty clouds, and the silence around me felt heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. When the town appeared ahead, it looked smaller than I expected, but it had a presence that made you notice it instantly. Walking through North Pole felt strange and familiar at the same time. The streets were quiet, but people waved as they passed by, dressed in thick winter coats. I could hear children laughing in the distance, the sound carrying strangely far in the crisp air. It felt like a town built not for speed or distraction, but for people who appreciate the slow rhythm of life surrounded by snow and mountains. Every building seemed to tell a story, from the small post office to the local cafes decorated with lights and holiday ornaments year-round. There was a warmth inside this cold place, a kind of resilience that made it feel alive. As I walked further, I noticed the mountains looming closer, casting long shadows over the town as the sun began to dip behind them. The wind picked up, carrying the faint scent of pine and wood smoke. I stopped at a small park and just stood there, feeling the isolation and the reality of living so far north. It was easy to imagine how the winters could feel endless, and yet, people here made it work. They embraced it, shaped their lives around it, and somehow found comfort in the challenges. For days and the long, quiet nights when the town felt like it was sleeping under the stars. Hearing it from someone who lived there made the place feel even more real. It was not magical or unbelievable, it was simply extraordinary because people choose to live here every day, surrounded by mountains, cold, and isolation. When I finally left, driving back along the snowy road, I realized that North Pole stays with you. Not because of its name or the stories you've heard, but because you felt it with your own senses, the cold, the silence, the mountains, and the people who call it home.